I've got my new carburetor installed on the KDX 200. I've switched the settings around a little bit from the last video by lowering the needle 1 clip position and switching the pilot jet from a 48 to a little bit leaner 42. Let's give it a listen. So I think that I can say with reasonable confidence that this engine is finally running right. It doesn't spray gas and oil out of the tailpipe, it idles, and it just sounds like it's going to rip, and I think that's just about the most conclusive evidence you can get. Today I've got some pretty big plans. When this motorcycle was new, it was sold as a trail bike. It just had a headlight and a tail light. Since I want to ride it on the street, I need to heavily modify the electrical system, and that's what I want to attempt in this video. I'm a little bit apprehensive about that because I have only the faintest, weakest grasp of how electricity works. And I also don't think that connecting wires is the most exciting thing for a YouTube video. When I get into electrical stuff, usually sparks happen and I end up just ruining components.
Great!
Maybe it will be an interesting video. So what I need to change around is I need to switch this single filament headlight to a high beam, low beam headlight. I need to change the tail light to a combination tail light and brake light. I need to install the gauge cluster just behind you, camera girl. And I need to make these turn signals work. Right now they're just decoys.
That's nice, dear.
And because of my inexperience in these matters, I don't know if all of that is going to take a couple of hours and we can wash our hands of it, or if it will take 2 weeks and it will end with a call to the fire department. So what I want to do is start off small and do the least intimidating thing on that list, which is, in my opinion, creating a working brake light.
Think you're up for that challenge?
Stop with the hard questions. See, no shower of petroleum. It's running better. You just keep telling yourself that, Sonny. So here's what I have at my disposal for this job. Electrical tools, some wiring from other motorcycles that have these really special bullet connectors, a complete wiring harness from an old washing machine that I can use for the wiring, and a soldering station, and heat shrink tubing, voltmeter, fire extinguisher.
Where?
It's already looking intimidating. And a computer power supply. I'm going to use this during my testing and fabrication because I don't want to start up the engine every time I want to see if a light bulb works. I like this because whenever you short it out, it doesn't blow up. It just has an internal breaker that kicks, and I can plug it back in a few minutes and resume what I was doing. I'm going to hook the positive lead of the power supply up to the positive input for the motorcycle wiring harness, which is this yellow wire, and the negative to a chassis ground. Watch the fan. That means we should have power. So I'll switch this headlight on. Okay, we have power to the chassis. I feel like I've done something already. And the taillight works too, which means that the factory wiring is operating as it was intended. Not for long though. I need to take apart this taillight.
Why?
Are you kidding? Wake up! Wake up! We need a brake light. When we step on the brakes, we want this to light up so people don't run into us. Me. Maybe we'll both go on a ride.
Okay.
This is a single filament bulb. There's just 2 wires, positive and negative. We need to change this bulb and the socket to a dual filament type so that one light can be on whenever the tail light is on, and the other one will only light up when we step on the brakes. I step on the brakes. You're always putting on the brakes. I got this from the auto parts store. It's a similar socket to this one, except that it has 2 positive leads in there, and I think it will serve my purpose. Okay, I'll disconnect this here and just take this socket out all the way so I can get a good look at it and what I want to do. Cutting is always a good first step, so we'll cut both of these wires and replace this socket with this one in the rubber grommet. Looks official. Yeah, that'll work. Now, where do these wires go? I have 2 wires. These are both positives, but I don't have anything going to the ground, which is this casing. I think we need to solder a ground wire onto here. And that will be this black one that I just cut. I don't know if I'll be able to solder to this big piece of metal because it's difficult to make it hot enough. Maybe? First connection. Done.
It looks good.
Brake lights, I'm coming. Now we need to hook up the positive sides. I've got a bulb in here, and I think the brake light should be brighter than the tail light. So I'm going to test both of these to see which is which. One and other. That's definitely dimmer, isn't it?
Yes.
So this should be our tail light. But if I'm wrong, I can probably switch this around in the housing and change it later. But I'm pretty sure the tail light should be dimmer than a brake light.
Yeah.
Brake is most important.
Yes.
Oh, halt! Halt!
Stop!
Steady. There. Things are going good. Taillight circuit is complete. Now we need to add in the brake wire. For the brakes, I'll use pink wiring because there isn't any pink in the harness so far. Camera girl made this solder joint. I fed the pink wire up through this old tube, through the grommet, and made the connection here, and Jennifer volunteered to do this work. So we'll put the heat shrink on, and then this assembly will be done.
There was some pretty nice soldering.
You did a good job. This looks like I know what I'm doing, but I haven't gotten into the complexities yet. When I say I don't understand about electricity, I mean, I know that if I have a battery, it has positive and it has negative, and if I hook those to something that likes electricity, the thing will work. But beyond that, things get very, very shady. First thing to go in is this pink wire, which I left wild because I don't know exactly where it's going to go. Then the original wires and the grommet. I think that looks good. Next step, hooking things up on this end.
It came to me while you were working. The betta fish,
Yeah.
the new betta fish, gonna be named Grommet. So your name is Grommet. He likes it. The fish has been christened. It was hard to do. He's in water.
I've got it figured out. This red wire needs to go 2 places. To the tail light and also down to the brake light switches on the brake pedal and the brake lever. The pink wire needs to go to the other side of those 2 switches. So what I need to do first is make a splitter that can go to this hot wire so it can go off in 2 different directions.
You hanging in there?
I'm trying to think if I said what I thought and also if what I think is right.
Made sense to me.
Okay.
So there's your first problem.
Come here, look at what I found. Just what I need on the parts bike. An adapter to turn one connection into 2. See how that works? One end is connected to power, the tail light connected to one of these terminals, and the other is open to go down to the brake switches. Let's see if the tail light works. Here's what I have for brake light switches. They're pressure activated, and I'll put one of them on the front brake and the other one down here at the back brake.
Sounds like you're struggling over here.
Got it. That was a tight bolt. We'll put the back switch on now. I need to be really careful tightening this down that I don't twist the wires. Both of the brake light switches are installed. Now for each one of the wires needs to go to a power source and the other one needs to tie into this pink wire that goes to the brake light. I feel like this video is already too long.
So we should talk about that maybe.
Ooh, you with those smart things to say. I've got another one of these doubly-doos.
Okay, Ned Flanders. The bird is laughing at you.
We'll connect this to the pink wire so that each one of these outlets can go to the brake switches. Look at all these wires. It really looks like I'm doing something now. What I've done is extended the leads for both of these brake light switches so that they'll get to these connections where I need them to plug in. The yellow wire is the power, so we'll plug that in for both sides. The front and the back brake, and this brown wire is the return back to the light. I ran out of pink wire, so pink kind of turned into brown. I really pity whoever might own this thing after me. Ready?
Yes.
Pull the brakes. Front brake first. Ooh, oh. Electrons. Pixies.
Excited electrons.
I am your master. Let's try the foot brake. Not too bad. So, mark that one off the list. All we need to do is tidy up this mess, and then it's on to the high beam, low beam conversion for this headlight.
It needs a facelift.
You do?
You need a hearing aid.
Have another look at this brake light. Whew, looks even better in red, don't you think?
It looks nice.
So let's see what's going on behind here. Here's the wiring from behind the headlight. The bulb goes right here. We're on day 2 now, by the way. I was looking at some of the footage from yesterday. I don't know if it's the acoustics or if I just have bad news in my future, but this engine kind of sounds like a bag of hammers when it runs. I think it's tuned pretty good, but I'm kind of worried about that bottom end. We'll get it finished up just in time for an engine rebuild. On the back of this socket, there's one wire going to the filament, but they must have thought of me when they engineered it because there's a place for another one. So I'll just connect this white wire to the back of this to create my low beam.
I think it was meant to be.
Meant to be. Meant to beam.
Nice.
Can't help it. How you feeling, Jen?
Not the best.
She woke up with a cold, but she's still out here. A trooper.
I'm hanging in there.
If you hear a wretched coughing and wheezing, pay no attention to Jennifer. She's sick all the time.
I am not.
There we go. High beam and low beam wires. Let's give it a quick test and see if it works. Number 1, that works. And for the additional wire. Yeah, number 2. The next challenge is a little bit tougher. We need to integrate this onto the motorcycle. Originally there was only one power lead going from the generator up to the headlight, but by the time we're through here, I need power taps for the headlight, the turn signals, instrument lighting, the tachometer, and maybe even a horn if I feel motivated.
You have to do the horn.
I think you just want to honk the horn.
Safety. I'm all about safety.
Fun and games.
It should be complete. You should do it the right way.
Okay.
Finish the job. And for fun.
Here's what I've done. Split one input into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power outputs, and I've passed the point of no return here because I had to cut into the original wiring harness to do this. Now I know what it feels like to be committed.
Now? 13 years.
So one of these wires is going to power the headlight, but I can't just plug this into here because I need to be able to choose high beam or low beam. For that, I bought this Handlebar Switch from a Kawasaki Ninja. It has a selector switch for the lights as well as turn signals and a horn button. First thing I need to do here is find the input wire that goes to the headlight switch. Unfortunately, I can't use these connectors that were on the Ninja.
Always gotta be so dramatic.
The way this switch works is I have a power wire which I'll connect to one of the 5 original outputs on my motorcycle, and if this switch is in the high position, it energizes the red and black wire which I'll connect to the high beams of the headlight, and when the switch is in the low position, it powers up red and yellow which I can attach right here. I think this will work. It looks legitimate with the genuine Kawasaki switches on here.
Who can argue with that? Of course it's street legal. Look, it's got that.
Yeah, switches, buttons. Don't do anything.
Yet.
Yet. The color coding has a little bit to be desired here. White goes to red and yellow, red to red, yellow to yellow down here. Everything's put back together. Not everything. The headlights put back together. I think testing this warrants an engine start. So far, so good.
I can tell you're struggling with this project.
Turn signals are next. I'm not struggling with the project as much as I'm just losing steam for this portion of it. For the turn signals, the first step, the easiest step, is to take one wire from each light and ground it to the chassis, which actually isn't a ground for this motorcycle. This is an AC system, which means that there's just a coil behind the flywheel that magnets sweep by and send electrons up through the yellow wire that we connect to on one end, and the other end of the coil just goes through the frame. So there's equal current going through the frame rails and the power wire. But we'll call it ground because that's common vernacular. Is that the right word? Vernacular?
Yeah.
I thought vernacular was part of your heart, though.
I think that's a ventricle.
You come out, I get happier. I've been out here, solder, cutting, slaving. You come out, better.
That's good. I was just inside coughing, so you didn't miss much.
Yeah. Well, you're either coughing or crying. Take your pick. By the way, if you skip forward at this point, you're still a champion.
I can't skip forward.
Come here, camera girl. I'll show you what I'm working with. Try not to cough on me. This is a set of 2 connectors that I got out of the box of washing machine wires, and they go directly to a chassis ground. I'm using these because I'm running low on the regular bullet connectors and I don't want to buy anything. So I'm going to connect one wire of the turn signal. Look how nicely I flattened out this bullet connector to resemble a spade connector. So I'll connect these 2. Did you get a shot of where this wire terminates? Right here above the coolant tank is where they catch the frame. And you'll see on the front here, I just have one wire coming out of each flasher. That's because I soldered the other one to the inside of this mounting post. So now these are just one wire turn signals. When I hook them up to power, they should flash. Now we need to get them to do what they're supposed to do, and that is flash when I flip the switch over here on the handlebar. This blue wire goes down to the generator, and it has a special washing machine connector on it because this fits perfectly on my turn signal flasher.
That's handy. That's from a washing machine?
Yeah, that's a whole box of washing machine wires.
I just didn't know that thing was from the washing machine.
I won't let them be a detergent for good results.
Oh, you did.
So this is the input wire for the flasher, and the output wire, which goes right here, goes into the turn signal switch. So I'll get all that connected.
Determined, aren't you?
We're getting this done tonight. I've got all of the connections soldered, and I just need to plug everything into the handle switch here, and then we'll see if it works. This green wire goes to the rear left turn signal. The front left turn signal goes right next to it, and these both go up to the switch. And I have a similar setup for the right side. The front one and the rear one can both plug into this same connector. Think I ought to move my soldering station? Okay, front and rear. Well, it kind of works. Everything flashes. If I had to guess, my problem is that the generator isn't strong enough to power the turn signals without pulling too much from the other lights too. We'll get it figured out later. Right now, I'm going in for dinner. Thanks for watching.